We did it! Holy hell, that was not worth all the effort to try to get that going. Jesus. I'm Jimmy the Freak. Welcome to Jobbed Out. I don't have the wrestling editorial that reminds you... Oh. a low-paying job is better than a no-paying job? We're going to get to that quite a bit, actually. Lots of wrestling news to be going through. I picked basically like 6 or 7 topics. God damn. Can't tell which worse, my hair or my sunburn. Let's see, Loki goes, Porque! Yeah, I did. I shaved off a good chunk of my beard because I, had to get a second, third job, technically. I don't even know why I'm looking at the Twitch chat. I've got my YouTube and Twitch chat combined over here. This is where I should be focusing. I gotta work on that catchphrase. Thank you, Dowloth. I know. It changes all the time. I can't say the wrestling editorial that reminds you that Michael Cole heat keeps you ice cold all year long, because, I say it like 30 times a year. Oh, Loki, I'm just doing some federal government census work. Okay, so there is an ad playing on YouTube again. I'm just gonna kill that music. I'm annoyed that it didn't stream to, the proper feed that I had set with the thumbnail and all that work I had put into it. My computer went to all forms of shit, which completely stopped me from... We're gonna fix that thumbnail. The thumbnail's bothering me, of all things. It stopped me from being live and on time. I bet you it lost all my... Yeah, it lost all my tags. Everything just went to crap. We might as well try to get to it and get things going. I'm going to delete that other stream, which I could be doing afterwards, because, that would be a responsible streamer does here. Doloth, I wear a mask when I appear on camera. I got a plague mask, so I don't have to worry about my looks. Interesting. I do have a fuck COVID mask around here. But I feel like I've kept you guys waiting long enough, So we're going to talk about some of these subjects. First of which, if you somehow stumbled on this and you don't follow my channel, why don't you? We're at what, 2,175 subscribers and counting. New videos came up over the last week, including the Today in History from, I believe it was the 13th, which was a Saturday? I think it was a Saturday, in which we talked about June 13th, 2006, the debut of the ECW Zombie. Also, ECW on Sci-Fi and Kelly and all that good stuff. There's also some, news and opinions with regards to Eva Marie showing up on Raw. Kinda. Andrade appearing on Dynamite, where it appears I'm actually in the minority that thought that it was what it needed to be. It turns out a lot of people are kind of down on him. Let's see. Oh. I shouldn't have meant... See, as soon as I mentioned Michael Cole. When Michael Cole announced how Liv Morgan chose to go wrestle alone, ouch, right? Well, I mean, to be fair, we didn't really know that her primary tag partner before Ruby was pregnant. That was info that wasn't public knowledge. We weren't ever going to know that. Let's see, Dowloth gets a kick out of the TEH in my name. Okay, so the story behind that, I was playing a completely different game. I believe it was Tannerus, and we could change our names every week. And some dude from Italy took The Freak while I was swapped out with another name. So I figured, well, I don't want to lose my name and my identity. I became Te Freak because it was a little more unique. Less likely that somebody was going to take that without actual malice in heart, and I just kind of kept that ever since. Alright, so... we're actually, this is going to be uncommon here. I'm going to talk a little bit about NWA first. For those not in the know, about a week ago, NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, Billy Corgan's wrestling company, which has recently finally got off the ground and started working again in terms of getting shows going, tapings with a crowd, they announced 2 things. One, the signing of Mickie James, who was recently released by the WWE and got a lot of attention with regards to the garbage bag incident. And I should point out, is married to the current 2-year running NWA World Heavyweight Champion. but they announced that she had signed with the company in an executive producer role, and she will be in charge of an upcoming pay-per-view. I think there's a date for it. The show in question is going to be called NWA Empower, as opposed to NWA Power. See, I had everything loaded up on Pages, and of course, what happens? My computer goes to shit. NWA Empower right now is slated for August 28th from St. Louis, Missouri. And the show will be a spiritual sequel to WWE's Evolution show. It will be an all-female pay-per-view featuring the best and brightest female talents from all over the world. Mickey James had said on Twitter, regardless of contractual obligation, which, no, I'm afraid not, honey. It actually sparked some controversy that I'm going to talk about in a sec, but the NWA, of course, has been trying to get back into good hands, good partnerships with different companies and promotions all over the world. They've been working a lot with AEW. Of course, we've seen Thunder Rosa, Serena Deeb appearing on Dynamite and Dark and on various AEW pay-per-views. So the plan, obviously, is to... Because I actually have to take a look at this. NWA's current female roster, I'd say, is a little thin. I know they've got, obviously, Serena Deeb. They've got Camille, who is the current women's champion. They've got... They had Melina. I'm not sure they even still have Melina. Wow, this Honor Personalities does not even list their wrestlers. Scrolling! I should, it's like if I showed you what I was scrolling, then there would be no issue. I'm just going through NWA Power, trying to find the list. There we go. Female wrestlers. Kylie Ray, Melina, which is questionable, Taryn Terrell, Thunder Rosa, and Camille. And that's their entire women's roster right now. So for them to hold, a 2.5 hour women's only pay-per-view with only their own roster, Thunder Rosa and Kylie Ray, they better be doing, a 1 hour Broadway just to cover a good chunk of that. Now, of course, they used to have a lot more names. They had, not Selena. What was Allison Kay? Sienna. That's what it was. Sienna. They used to have Marty Bell. They used to have Serena Deeb. They've got Velvet Sky on commentary. There are plenty of female talents. They could get Abaddon, who I know, if he shows up, there's a regular on my channel who absolutely despises. I like Abaddon. If they make a deal with Impact, they could get Rosemary. They could get a fair number of tag team talents, because they've got the Knockouts tag titles going. And you have to have at least one good tag match on this. They're not going to be able to get Trish Stratus. They might be able to get Lita because she's a rebel. They can't get Molly Holly. They might get Lisa Marie Varon, the former Victoria. There are names that they will definitely have to go to Japan to grab. Question becomes, do they get Sexy Star? If they get Sexy Star, they're definitely not getting Rosemary. Do they get Tessa Blanchard? Because there's going to be quite a few people who say they're just not going to work. Evilise needs a job. We've talked about that live on stream. And I don't know what will happen in that case. So they definitely need to reach out, which leads me to... I gotta check this. Abaddon wouldn't have a shot in NWA. That kind of character isn't going to jive with the question mark. Oh, yeah. It's a shame about the question mark. Cardiac arrest. I'm Josephus. Nobody will sign Sexy Star because she shot on Rosemary. That was messed up. And I've met Sexy Star. I have one hair that I'm trying to casually get out of my mustache. It's just not fucking working. I need to actually double check. Was it the question mark? But last year, Josephus of the NWA passed away. And I want to say he was the question mark. Yes, the question mark. He passed away in February, actually. He had cardiac arrest. He had a heart attack. We found out from Nick Aldis's Twitter. And it was confirmed by Billy Corgan. Towel than that plague mask. I should go get my fuck COVID mask, but... sorry, back to the subject. If you guys know, I can keep on topic with the regularly scheduled videos on YouTube. No freaking chance with a live stream. It just can't happen. So Mickie James put out a tweet. I don't know if it's still up there, but she had... Mickie James tweet, contractual obligation. She had announced on Twitter that she was going to do this pay-per-view and that she wanted to have all the best female wrestlers in the world, regardless of contractual obligation, to which Triple H was asked during a press conference, a media call. We gotta stop asking Triple H stuff on these media calls. He put his foot in his mouth answering a tweet from someone who was putting a foot in their mouth. So his response to would the WWE loan talent to NWA for this pay-per-view, to an all-women's pay-per-view, his response was to laugh at the question and say, didn't we already do one of those? Which means, they, once again, like to believe that they are the first and best, therefore the only source for something. There were women's pay-per-views before the WWE. Shimmer does them on a regular basis. Shine, Stardom are both all women's pay-per-views. But, Evolution was the first, and therefore there is no need for a second. And Triple H, what a dumb thing for him to say. He did address something, albeit with snark. It was the appropriate answer, the proper answer, that you can't have contractual obligations if someone can just take your talent anyway. It's like, what's the point of a contractual obligation? It's to be exclusive to you. He then did what he has to do all the time and plug the WWE and do the whole, if you want to see the best and brightest women in the company, you watch us. Thanks a lot, considering they just fired Peyton Royce, Billy Kay, Mickie James, Zelina Vega last year. They've dumped a lot of talent. Ty Conti, I can never get that right. I'm Portuguese and I can't say Thai when it's Tay to me. They've let so many female talents go, which thankfully, since this show's going to be in August, they will be eligible to go and work that. The question will be how that will benefit the NWA, but we'll see how it goes. It won't have the success or the buzz that WWE Evolution had, but if Billy Corgan calls in his favors and Mickie James pulls a Cody Rhodes, and for those that don't get that reference, I'm talking about All In, where AEW was not a thing yet, but Cody Rhodes called some favors. He got Ring of Honor to basically bankroll his show. Well, not bankroll, but they offered all their production equipment. And All In, which, I guess is a trivia tidbit, is technically a Ring of Honor show, came to be. Mickie James might have to do the same thing. Where, okay, you need Tony Khan. I don't think Tony Khan's going to turn that down. Unlike the WWE, when they were saying a few months ago, we're open for business, we'll work with anybody, before Triple H just basically said, why should we work with anybody if we already have all the best? But Tony Khan, he'll make great use of it. Scott D'Amore, they definitely are going to want their Impact talents to be on this show. Let's see. Oh, I'm falling behind on this now. WWE wasn't happy how Evolution did. I have to dispute that. There was a lot of acclaim and praise on the success of Evolution, but Evolution was never meant to be its own, successful brand. It was a make good, because all these talents were getting extra huge paydays to go work, was it Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, and obviously the women weren't allowed. and they weren't going to get a compensation payday to sit at home, so they got their own show. Evolution was a very good show. I thought it was going to tank because they put it in Nassau Coliseum, and Long Island turned up, and they did a great... Like, the fans did a service to this show, and the performers did an excellent job, despite the fact they had to change some things up due to Alexa Bliss's injury. I remember she was originally penned to wrestle one-on-one with Trish Stratus, and then she ended up doing a tag match where she basically, stayed at the ropes. Actually, I don't think she got in the ring that match. So, NWA is going to have to really pull some strings. And even then, it's not going to compare to Evolution, and the WWE will brush their shoulders and go, see, we are the best. Because that's all the WWE really knows how to do. Okay, so speaking of WWE and all they know how to do, Eva Marie is back! Yay! I have been just laughing. And obviously, I put a video out on Monday talking about Eva Marie's Raw debut. And I thought it was great, and I can only hope that the actual individual who debuted, Piper Niven, goes by the name Eva Marie. That's how I hope it goes. I hope she wrestles as Eva Marie, so when Piper Niven wins a women's championship, it's going to say, and your champion on the record books was Eva Marie. I think that is the best egotistical, cocky evolution, pardon the wordplay, to Eva Marie's, can't wrestle anywhere gimmick, which I, again, absolutely love. We've been joking around on Facebook. Mia in my Twitch chat can attest to this. Joking around on Facebook with regards to the excuses for why she couldn't come to the ring. She's delayed by traffic. She's taking a personal mental health day. She's on vacation. Mia, the ever so classy individual, said that she has explosive diarrhea. There was the Charlie Horse. Ori is in my chat. Ori, I was actually going to DM you today. I miss you. I hope you're doing all right. I know there's a new chapter in DBD. No, I don't want to play it. But I do miss you. You're a good kid. Bright shoes. Nice future. So, you just missed to talk about the NWA Empower All Women's pay-per-view, which is going to be hosted by Mickie James. Just talking about Eva Marie debuting on Raw. And I hate wrestling Twitter, but Twitter accounts for like 20% of my views. So I have to talk about wrestling Twitter, and I have to read wrestling Twitter. So there's been some backlash with regards to Piper Niven, potentially also known as, Eva Marie Deux. But, and in my own comments, which is hilarious because, I'm an overweight guy. I'm a fat guy. I'm 300 pounds. I'm active for a 300-pounder, but I'm 300 pounds. And Piper Niven was getting a lot of flack on Twitter for being overweight. So what? Otis is overweight. Keith Lee is overweight. It's more of an importance whether they can wrestle. If she's overweight and she performs like Nia Jax, yeah, go nuts, be angry. Be angry that, she can't wrestle worth a shit. But Piper Niven can wrestle. Just like Keith Lee can wrestle. Dusty Rhodes, American Dream, was a fat motherfucker and he could work. And people enjoyed watching his work. So, it's one of those, if you want, I don't get what these people want. If you want everybody to look the same, have the same Charlotte Flair look, that's boring. At one point, 60% of the women's roster in the WWE had long, straight, blonde hair. Who cares? And the spray tan. And the fake tits. Let's see. Oh, Dowloth. Eva Marie's mental health day isn't so funny, as she had drug issues. Yeah, but they weren't talking about her eventual wellness suspension. What they did was they made it sound like she was just vacationing. It was the idea of how can Eva Marie get out of this match? And, that's a completely different thing. We knew that it wasn't going to be. Dowloth, what if somebody vastly overweight dies of a heart attack? Dusty booked himself to win WWE. Booked himself to win. In WWE, he dressed like a bumblebee. Bumblebees aren't spotted. Just to clarify. He was more of a a twister board for monochromatics. But here's the thing about, again, different sizes, different shapes. WWE does not want one of their performers having a heart attack. So they're going to do rigorous testing. They're going to make sure that these people are seeing a doctor, that if they are at a point of concern, that they lose some weight and get their cardio up. Let the WWE's medical team worry about if Nia Jax is going to have a heart attack or if Keith Lee is obese. Let them worry about that. As a fan, we should be worrying about whether or not the show is good. And if they can do a good show, then I'm fine with somebody being, 50 pounds overweight. I don't take issue with that. See, Charlotte looks like she's done way too many drugs. Charlotte is not my cup of tea, but El Idolo likes her. So, go nuts. Other WWE news this week came from Tuesday night, as recently released WWE superstar Samoa Joe has returned to the brand before his 90 days were completed. I've seen flack, I've seen praise, I've seen a lot of things. I've been asked personally by my buddy Freddie to kind of offer my opinions on this. Samoa Joe had a performer's contract since 2015. He had an NXT contract in 2017. He went to the main roster. It was 2018. Well, it was 2017 because it was right before he attacked Seth Rollins right before the worst WrestleMania I ever attended in person. But Samoa Joe had a decent-sized contract to be an in-ring performer, and he was on commentary because of his body issues, his injuries. He just couldn't go. So they realized, as they were tightening their budget, hilariously, and cutting down on their actual payroll here, Samoa Joe makes too much money for the work he is doing. And that's probably reasonably fair. Adnan Virk shouldn't have been making, $800,000 a year either. He should be making probably 50 or 60. Well, he only worked for 6 weeks, so he, make a couple coupons for a free Big Mac. But Samoa Joe, they let him go because he's no longer an active performer. He can't reliably do a proper tour schedule when they're going to need it. And they offered him a reduced contract to go back, work 1 day a week on NXT in a mostly non-physical enforcer role that keeps him on TV, keeps his name up there, and can still sell merchandise. I don't know where anybody can criticize this. It wasn't like Samoa Joe was given the option, keep your old contract or take this new one. He was fired. His options were take this new contract or take no contract. And he could have said no and gone, back to Impact, where they didn't know how to use him, or go to AEW, where his body probably can't keep up with their touring schedule, or go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, where he's going to be halfway across the world and likely hurt. Take the easy money, Joe. He's in his 40s. He's pretty done with his career. If he wants to bust out a match every 6 months or so, sure, fine. But he debuted on NXT, was given this position of you cannot hurt anybody unless provoked. Beautiful. Enforcer. He's Constable Corbin, except people like him. So I think that there's no negatives to Samoa Joe working in NXT. Now, I'm sure there's got to be somebody who disagrees. Deloth is glad that he didn't go to AEW or TNA. Let's see. Oh, I think he's back on the heart attack thing. Even though somebody like Hawk died, I think a heart attack. He did die of a heart attack. He wasn't moving his couch. He was taking a nap. He wasn't 300 pounds, but the thing about Hawk was he had cleaned up, gotten off of the drugs, but he had done so much, that it was just his clock had run out. He burnt the candle at both ends, and by the time that he actually did settle down and clean up, there was very little wax left to burn. That's the poetic way of saying that, really. But he also wasn't under the strict medical testing that the WWE does now in order to not have another Eddie Guerrero. You know, it's a very different scenario, a different time, a different era. Because, I mean, if anybody's worth worrying about body-wise, it's not Piper Niven, it's probably Otis. Because, yeah, Otis, he's already a big guy, but do you see how quickly he blows up? He busts into a sweat just, you know, doing an Irish whip in the back. That's cause for cardio concern. That's a worry. That's a little bit more what we need the medical team to be looking into than whether, you know, somebody should or shouldn't look good in a singlet. All right, still on NXT, we got a storyline I wasn't following too much, but could, you know, see from a million miles away. For those not knowing, $1 Million Man had returned last month. Ted DiBiase had shown up in NXT to be part of this storyline with Cameron Grimes. Cameron Grimes, who I believe was Trevor Lee in TNA, in Impact Wrestling. He was like grosser, hairier Daniel Bryan, except he can't wrestle as well. He's fine. But Cameron Grimes in the real world had made a hefty amount of money. I heard it was 7 digits with GameStop stock in 2020. He did very well for himself. So they decided, since he needed a gimmick, he was going to be a gross millionaire and would constantly reference and try to one-up the $1 Million Man's past transgressions. And what it led to was Ted DiBiase becoming a part of the show and constantly one-upping and beating Cameron Grimes in segments like buying an expensive watch or auctioning a house. The idea was, he's good, but he'll never be the $1 Million Man. So what came to be was NXT TakeOver's In Your House show on the weekend, which featured Todd Pettengill, that beautiful son of a bitch. And I did not plug that in your... Fuck. You know, this is why my channel doesn't grow, because I'm not smart enough to actually plug my old videos when I should be plugging them. But the idea was there was a ladder match between the former Trevor Lee and the former Eli Drake for the $1 Million Championship, the $1 Million title, that most recently, a decade ago, was being carried by Ted DiBiase Jr. before he rebelled and gave the belt back to his dad. So, the ladder match came and went. It was a very good match. LA Knight, the former Eli Drake, won the belt. And on Tuesday, he... Sorry, I'm having some computer problems again. My internet apparently is not solid. But on Tuesday, LA Knight was properly presented the $1 Million Championship by Ted DiBiase, to which he took the belt and promptly beat the shit out of Ted DiBiase. Now, I don't know if Ted is still going to be part of a story here. I don't want to see some... What is going on? No, sorry, you gotta wait. Sorry, guys. It's whenever I'm trying to be professional. I don't expect to see a story where Ted DiBiase becomes a babyface and aligns with Cameron Grimes. I think the Ted chapter is done. We were waiting to see how Ted DiBiase was going to give the rub to Cameron Grimes, and what we ended up getting was Ted DiBiase giving the rub to LA Knight, who is such an arrogant, cocky heel, he doesn't even need the $1 Million Man. I think it's excellent storytelling, and we did end up getting, like, it hasn't happened yet, but we're going to end up getting Cameron Grimes as a babyface out of this. Because you better believe that since LA Knight has officially taken the $1 Million title from Ted DiBiase, the one way Grimes can finally one-up Ted is to get that belt from LA Knight. Now, that could lead us to a thing in the future where Grimes gives the belt back to Ted, you know, in honor. Or he could still be a petty-ass, you know, caveman millionaire. I think either way, it's something to give reason to watch NXT, and they kind of need that right now because it is hard to watch NXT. Let's see, I'm just catching up. Dowloth talking about Jericho. Didn't even realize Ted was still alive? Oh, man. He was doing some Christian wrestling stuff. He was the commissioner of a failed wrestling company that I plan to talk about in the future. I believe Wrestling with Regret has already covered it, though. And Ted's been in a bit of scandal with regards to his charity foundation stealing a lot of money. But it was one of his sons that's taken the heat for that instead of him. I met Ted in 2012. We only had a couple conversations, mostly about Jake, because it was a very bad time for Jake, and I had just interviewed him, and it was a bit rough. But Ted, very hospitable. Ted was kind of witness to how I got Hacksaw Jim Duggan for an interview, and it was legit just those two sitting in a lounge at a bar on the main floor of the hotel I was staying at. And I saw them put a $50 bill down, offer them like the next round on me. Went to go have dinner with a couple buddies. Came back. I believe that was actually when I filmed something in front of the Hart House too. Came back and they were still there. Talked with them for a little bit, and basically because I gave them free liquor and because I had taken care of Jake, Jim Duggan offered me basically a free interview. So, you know, that's the story of the shoot interview that you can find on my channel's playlist for interviews. Notice if you move head in certain ways, it seems to freeze for a second. Really? It freezes? It can't handle the pixels? That's a little weird. I made the mistake of buying a top-of-the-line 4K camera in 2017 that never could shoot 4K. I'm not even sure. This is supposed to be 1080p. My left testicle. This is 1080p, and it's definitely not 60 FPS. Alright, just going through the topics here. We've talked about Mickie James, we've talked about Samoa Joe, we talked about Eva Marie, we've talked about LA Knight. I've been kind of... It's weird. It's not planned, but it's like they have been, at least company-wise, segueing. I did talk a little bit about, former Impact wrestlers on this one. We did get some sad news this week that Don West, the former color commentary for Impact Wrestling back in the Asylum days, has been announced to have a brain tumor, which is a horrible shame. Anytime. There's very few people out there that could get sick that I won't feel sorry for. I have a little bit of humanity left. New Jack, not so much. But Don West, for those that weren't watching Impact or TNA in the early 2000s, he was a bit tough to watch. He originally was a Home Shopping Network guy, and every single thing he did, he shouted. I don't think he has an indoor voice. And it got very grating. But he had a lot of energy, and he knew what he was talking about, especially for someone who was technically an outsider with regards to wrestling. He would get eventually replaced. I know Taz replaced him for a bit. We had this carousel of color commentary on Impact, and I can't watch a lot of... Most of the time, I can't watch commentary at all. AEW streams at 720, not 1080. Yeah, that's a bitrate thing. It usually comes down to the sites. YouTube can take a higher bitrate than Twitch can. So if it is scaling it down, it's scaling it down for Twitch. So sorry, back to the rotating commentary team on Impact. Don West was very hard to take at the time, but very much appreciated after he was gone. He did have a bit of that Todd Pettengill in him, that he would disappear for a few years, and then they would bring back the segments for TNA Shop, where he'd be in the warehouse shouting at you to buy a Jeff Hardy painting. And it was refreshing. It was nice. I haven't left out Strowman. Strowman's on my list. Why? No. And I'll prove it to you. I've been deleting stuff as I take him off the list. But yes, he's on my list, okay? You calm your tits. Alright, so yeah, I do hope that Don West has a speedy recovery. I would like for him not to be done in the wrestling world. I think he still has plenty to contribute. And I think that he's one of those names that, TNA does have a Hall of Fame. You wouldn't know it because they just normally put somebody in one a year, and it's Gail Kim or Earl Hebner. I think Don West is one of those names. Although what I would do is I would put Don West and Mike Tenay in together and put TNA commentary as Impact inductee very soon, sooner rather than later. See, Dela's cousin had brain surgery. It is tough. I dated a girl, actually, in 05, 06, 07, who had a brain tumor. And the surgery actually left her paralyzed on one side of her body. Which, I mean, it's not just tough, it's life-altering. I haven't talked to her in about 8-9 years. I have no idea whatever happened to her, in all honesty. Let's see. I'm just catching up on the chat here. Deloff likes guys like Bobby. Yeah, Bobby Heenan was the bar. He was the standard. Just like, Gene Okerlund was the only proper backstage interviewer. No one else could live up to it. Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, I could argue, was actually better than Ventura and Monsoon. They were the best commentary duo you could have, period. There was no comparison. Anyone else, and that includes Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler, they have to work to compare to Heenan, not the other way around. They're a good, number two, but Heenan will always be, the top. And TNA, of course, you can't compare TNA to like the top in the world, because TNA, while they have been around for almost 20 years now, 20 years next year, wrestling goes back so many decades, and we've seen the best of the best in the NWA and WCW and WWE and ECW. But in terms of within their own company, I don't think there's ever been or ever will be a combination on commentary that can compare to Mike Tenay and Don West. Ezra Hiller disagrees. That's fair. That is fair. That's the beauty of everybody having their own positions and opinions on it. But yeah, I still stand that, I hope Don West doesn't die. If you disagree with that, oh my God. Seriously. On that lighter note, let's talk about probably one of the dumbest things. So, I've been pretty rough on Braun Strowman. Mainly because, well, last year it was this year. This year, for some reason, they decided, let's make Braun Strowman a champion for dumb people. What? Wasn't he just supposed to be a big monster? Then they're like, this is for all the people who've been told they're dumb. And then throw Shane off a cage. Braun did a dumb again. Eventually I'm going to have to call him Adam Shear, whatever the hell his real name is. We've talked about it when he was released. We've talked about it in the past. When the pandemic shut down the wrestling world last spring and wrestlers were all of a sudden in a panic. How are they going to pay their bills? And some were asking for GoFundMe support or asking people to support your indie wrestlers, buy merch. Braun Strowman went out there and basically told wrestlers to get real jobs. Idiot. He also recently had told people, he had done an interview, I can't remember who the interview was with, but Braun Strowman said that he would never consider working for another company. He's WWE for life. And then he got fired last week. Or was it last week? He got fired recently. Last month, maybe. And it's hard to feel sorry for the guy, But he has started announcing through an agent what his rates are going to be if a promotion or a convention or somebody wants to book Braun Strowman. Now, I should point out before I give you this number that once his 90-day no-compete clause is done, he is no longer allowed to use the Braun Strowman name. This means you cannot see him go to a convention and see a banner that says former WWE superstar Braun Strowman. You cannot see him signing Braun Strowman on photographs and selling them. You cannot see him pushing Braun Strowman action figures or t-shirts. His identity is gone. Now, with that said, Braun Strowman... Oh, we just got a subscriber. Well, thank you so much, Ezra. Welcome to the group here. I didn't realize I had YouTube subs set under notifications there. I thought it was just the Twitch ones. I'm sorry. Braun Strowman has it set that if an indie company wants to book Adam Shear, because he won't be able to be Braun Strowman, I don't know, Mountain Man, Strong Man, I don't know what the hell they're going to have to call him. Probably just call him Brown Strongman. You know, do the Brad Maddox thing. When Brad Maddox was canned by WWE, he became Mad Braddix. And you can be Brown Strongman. If you want to book Brown Strongman for your indie show, it will cost you $20,000 plus travel and expenses. Now, I don't know how many of you have worked small local indie shows or been to small local indie shows. I don't mean Ring of Honor. I don't mean AEW. I don't mean NWA Wildside. I mean like ECCW or Monster Pro Wrestling. If you're lucky, you'll get 2, maybe 300 people. If you're lucky, they will pay $10, maybe $15 for a ticket. So if you're lucky, your gate might be $3,000 or $4,000, and Braun wants 20. It really shows how little experience this man has with the pro wrestling industry outside the WWE. I've called him out on it plenty of times. On the video where I talked about him being released, I pointed out he didn't work indies, despite his rant against indie wrestlers needing to get real jobs. He had no grasp on what the travel schedules like, what the expenses are like, what the paydays are like. He claims that he had to struggle and work hard, and when he failed in Strongman, he worked harder to become a WWE superstar. Not true. He performed in a Strongman competition, was spotted by Mark Henry, and then was offered a contract where they would pay him to train in the Performance Center. Basically what Gronk got. We will pay you to train in our building, and then we'll see about you becoming a wrestler. So Braun has had it very easy. I don't know where the shit he got $20,000 from. There are companies all over the world who are not going to make $20,000 per show. They're just not. AEW will. NWA might. Impact probably could. You know, they're out of the Impact zone, so yeah, they probably could. Yeah, $2,500 sounds reasonable to me. I believe the highest I ever dealt with was Scott Steiner for a company I'm no longer with. And it was including his expenses, which included 3 nights hotel and flights both way, $4,000. And it's like, okay, this company is going to take a loss. That's just it. We knew we were going to take a loss in having Scott Steiner for $4,000. But we were going to have people talking about Scott Steiner working in that company. It ended up leading to more people. After I left that company, they had Samoa Joe. They had AJ Styles. Johnny Devine was easy because he lives here. But, you know, it's like we were getting different names. Oh, Ezra, you missed it. I talked about Samoa Joe. My position is, you know, he did the smartest thing he could. Obviously, I went into greater detail. You're watching on YouTube. You should hopefully be able to rewind and catch that, or the VOD will go up afterwards. But, you know, I mean, it's the only sensible thing for him to do based on the scenario given to him. And I don't feel he got extorted. I don't feel he was exploited. I don't feel that he was, you know, put in a position where he had no choice. He wasn't under duress. I think he just made the right decision in terms of, where his body is right now, what his financial needs are. It was the way to go. Unlike Braun, who's going to be sitting at home hoping to hell that, I don't know, WizardCon or is it San Francisco or San Diego? I think San Diego Comic-Con gives him a call. It's not going to happen because it is impossible for most indie shows or indie conventions or indie fan fests to make that money back in their gate, let alone to pay off one person. Just not going to happen. It is way more likely that Braun Strowman, who was released because he was making $1.2 million a year, it is way more likely that Braun will re-sign with the WWE maybe 4 months, 6 months, 12 months from now at 500, maybe 600 grand. I absolutely think, because that is the only place that will take him, especially at the rate that he is asking. $20,000. $20,000. That's $1 million. He was still trying to get $1 million a year on the indies. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. And people think I'm out of touch. Let's see. Oh, you were with wrestling companies like in Canada. That is cool. At least he was Big Papa Pump. He could talk and wrestle. And that's just it. And you didn't even necessarily need him to wrestle at that point. You just give him a microphone. Let him talk shit. I worked with Real Canadian Wrestling in their opening days. I worked with the Prairie Wrestling Alliance for a short time in 2005. I had close ties with ECCW when they were still under the NWA banner in Vancouver. And I don't work with, but I'm still very close friends with and will, happily do favors and help out with Monster Pro Wrestling out of Edmonton. So just Jesus. And Monster Pro, the biggest name that, they don't tend to bring in outside names anymore. That's more of a PWA. That's really more of an RCW thing now. The Monster Pro, the biggest name, Phil LaFawn. I can't think of anybody from Monster Pro who got WWE deals. RCW had Jinder Mahal back when he was Tiger Raj. He was a part of actually a storyline that included me because I could bump and people would genuinely believe my fat ass was getting beat. So as a ring announcer, Jinder was part of a gimmick with me and Sean Courage, and I, for the life of me, cannot remember what Sean Courage's ring name was at the time. His real name was Awesome, and he would not go with it. I remember at some point he had he changed his name every show. It was not very good for him. Let's see, even actors who do movies for my friends get $2,500. You know how much Dean Ambrose made for his final show in the WWE? $200. $200. Braun Strowman wants 20 grand. You think Braun Strowman learned from Ric Flair, who robbed Ring of Honor? Daloth, I hope that is a shameless plug for my video. Because, yeah, if anybody is new to my channel, you go and look on my playlist. There was a time when Ring of Honor took $40,000, essentially stole $40,000 from Ring of Honor. And he only got away with it because the company got sold. And the new owners didn't want to take on the lawsuit. Okay, we've talked about Don West and Strowman. I only have 3 more things on my list. We're flying today. And for some reason, is this read only now? What the shit? It won't even let me delete on Microsoft Word anymore. Interesting, because I could delete before. Earlier this stream. Nothing with Hannibal? No, I haven't worked with Hannibal. We've talked a couple times because he has talent that I'd like to contact to do an interview, and I have talent that he'd like to contact to do an interview. I know that he got the original Dan Crofit, so I'm looking to get the new, I did the interview with the new Dan Crofit with Phil LaFawn, and we might figure something out. I need to talk to Phil. Sir William Regal is in my chat, calling us smarks. Just an unrelated note to throw in there. I was asked recently one of those like, so what wrestler would you like to go and have a drink with? And very, very like this maybe this shows him a bad influence. I want to get shit faced with pre-rehab William Regal. I feel like us shooting the shit, getting loaded on beer, listening to old punk music would have been the best time in my entire freaking life, before he cleaned up and got better, because obviously, addiction is a serious thing. William Regal went through some very hard times. Okay. To try to get caught up. The other one that people saw on my list, and somebody in the beginning really wanted me to talk about, AEW. There had been kind of a reveal earlier this week that Tony Khan, the new deal that they signed with TBS, basically, because they're on TNT now, their old deal, I think their first deal was for $20 million to air on Dynamite on TNT. Then right before the pandemic hit, they signed a new deal for $44 million. And it was a good head turner, because obviously if USA or Fox get tired of 1 million, 1.5 million people watching Raw for 200 to 250 mil, well, what if we can get 1 mil with Dynamite and it only costs us 100 mil? It became an affordable option, which is really what the WWE should be worrying about when it comes to ratings, more so than the actual numbers right now. But the new deal that was signed that will move Dynamite and Rampage to TBS next year, I apologize, is in the field of, was it 140 million? I want to say it was 144, 140. It might have been 147, but it's in that range. More than 120, less than 150, which, for a company that's 2 years old, that is beautiful. However, Tony Khan did reveal that despite that new deal, they are still operating in the red. So at the moment, expenses are more than $150 million a year, which by that account means that AEW signed this deal at the right freaking time. Because if they were still going to go at $40 million a year and lose easily 100 mil, they're not going to be around for very long. Now, they pointed out that the reason that they're in the red, and they said it was by 8 digits, it was in the tens of millions, is because of all the work they're doing towards the AEW video games. And that makes sense, because they've got some major studios behind it. It's not going to be like that god-awful casino game. I can't tell you if it's going to be like Elite General Manager, because I got a code for Elite General Manager, and then I had to work every day, and it turned out their beta code was only for like 3 days, so I didn't get to play it. But they are putting tens of millions of dollars to make sure that this game goes well. They will see some of that money come back, obviously, in game sales. Will they sell 1 million copies at $80 a pop? I sincerely doubt it. But it gets their name on shelves in stores where you don't see AEW's name now. Now, they're also going to be opening up. They've recently, opened up Dynamite to more fans. They're going live on tour again. And before the pandemic hit, AEW was profitable. They were, solvent. They were making more money than they were spending. So getting more income in from fans that boosted merch again, getting a third hour on television, this could be very, very good for AEW, despite being a money loser right now. And it all falls down on that new TV deal. I don't think maybe we realize how much trouble could they really have been in, because Tony Khan's dad is a billionaire, and we don't know where their limit was. It could have been a situation where, like Bob Carter and Dixie, yeah, you know what, we're just going to let you lose money year after year after year. Don't worry about it. It's my daughter's project. It's my baby girl's toy. Shad Khan might very well have been that way with Tony. But the fact that they do have at least a plan to get their finances in order is very encouraging. So I don't know if it's something to really stress about. I feel like definitely would have been more stress if they didn't get that $100 million deal signed. Or sorry, that deal for an additional $100 million signed. So they're losing money with all that, even staying in the same place for... Yeah, because you're not selling tickets. That's the thing when you're touring, Daola. That's different cities with people who don't already have your merchandise, who don't already buy your product. Going to other cities, like if they're just staying in Jacksonville 52 weeks a year, everybody already has your t-shirt. You know, they're not necessarily giving you more money beyond those ticket sales. Impact at one point was operating on that model as well. It didn't matter how many tickets they sold. What mattered was for each one person in the seats, they sold $32 worth of concession or merchandise. So as long as you bought a hot dog and a t-shirt, you could get in for free. And it was a worthwhile, spot. Now, if you bought a ticket for $20 and you spent $100 at the merch table, fantastic. You were a profiter. You were exactly what they needed. ECW went bankrupt when their game was awful and flopped. I want to correct you on that. ECW went bankrupt because TNN was charging ECW to run their shows properly. They gave them a very small TV deal, and then demanded that they use all this expensive equipment, and they were losing. I can't remember the exact number. I remember I tried to find the number and couldn't. I want to say Paul Heyman said it was something along the lines. At one point, they were losing like $200,000 a show because of all the extra satellite equipment and all the extra pyro and set and, well, not pyro, but all the set and stuff that they otherwise didn't need for their shows, because ECW didn't. They were just they had fans bringing in weapons. Bring your frying pans, bring your cheese graters, bring your cookie sheets, because we can't afford kendo sticks right now. Let's see, how will the Rampage Hour do, like 2 or 3 matches? A reasonable 44-minute show only needs 3 matches. Lucha Underground showed us that. 3 matches is a good, sweet number. NXT, when they were on the USA Network, 1 hour, I think it was like 48 minutes, 3 matches is a good sweet spot. 1 main event, a high-energy opener, something in the middle. If you want to do other segments, then that thing in the middle could be a 30-second squash. If you want to focus on having a really, really good main event, you backload your show. It is very doable. What's most important, though, is that 3rd hour is going to be on Friday night and not on Wednesday. That they didn't just tack it on to Dynamite. Because we are a decade into 3-hour Monday Night Raws. I can't watch 3-hour Monday Night. I don't know how the hell I did it when I was a teenager. I could watch Raw and then watch Nitro right after. That's 4, sometimes 5 hours of wrestling television. I could watch Thunder and SmackDown and ECW and Stampede and Metal and Sunday Night Heat and a pay-per-view. Watch all these freaking shows and worldwide. And I didn't ever feel like I got enough. Monday Night Raw, I'm pretty done by the time 2nd hour is starting. I don't care anymore. SmackDown's a bit easier to watch. I loved when NXT was on the WWE Network and it was 1 hour long. I don't necessarily want to put 2 hours in on Tuesday nights. It's I grew up. I don't know how else to put it. Catan goes 444 life in my Twitch chat. How's it going? You've missed a good chunk. I think we're actually through almost all the wrestling news that we were discussing here. All that's left is an interesting tidbit that happened this morning on The Bump. That's right, I freaking watched The Bump. I only ever seem to watch The Bump when there's a Hall of Fame announcement, because it's not very good. It was something they needed when the pandemic happened and they couldn't do studio shows. So, great, it did its job. But Baron Corbin recently spoke, like, today. And he was speaking about Shinsuke Nakamura feud. And I believe he was talking a little bit about Xavier Woods. But the ultimate thing that he said is that he would like to have a return of the King of the Ring tournament. And I'm on board. I liked the King of the Ring tournament growing up. Because, when I was a kid, Brett won it, Owen won it, Austin, obviously. People have kind of rewritten history to think that Austin winning the King of the Ring is what changed everything. It wasn't. Because after he won the King of the Ring, no one gave a shit about Austin either. What changed Austin, what changed everything, was when he started cutting his edgy vignettes about how Bret Hart's a crybaby. That was what did it for him. Catan, you're right. Vince hates tournaments. I don't know why. I thought Deadly Game was a good show. Let's see. SmackDown is repetitive except for Roman's storyline. You know what? A show... I guess before I go back into the King of the Ring thing, what makes a show good, whether it's 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour, really comes down to how many engaging stories they're telling. What hurts so much, especially in like 2015, 2016, 2017, actually even going back to 2012, 2013, 2014, Raw was a one-story show. It was all about the Authority. Everything that happened had to center around that one storyline. And it was miserable because it felt like it just never ended. And it felt like it never ended over the span of how many months it went through. And it felt like it never ended in the span of how many hours it would go through. I liked Lucha Underground because they had 4 or 5 different storylines going on. And sometimes, this week, you're not even going to see an update to, the Evilise Angelico Son of Havoc story. This week, it's going to be about John Morrison trying to get the Lucha Underground title from Ricochet. And then next week, we'll get the Trios title storyline. And then the story after that is going to be about, Big Rick and his crew. They figured out how to not make it the same thing every week. And it was a running joke for like 2.5 years. That you could skip the first half an hour of Raw because every week it's just the what is Triple H going to talk about for half an hour. It's unreasonable. Now, Dynamite, I feel like they're losing their way with that because in the first year in 2019, they had it. They had a major Cody storyline. You had the Hangman and Kenny storyline. Then you had the Jericho World Title storyline, and they didn't necessarily have to interact with each other at all. And lately, it doesn't feel like that's still the case. Catan, Ricochet. Ricochet's on main event, I'm pretty certain. I'm pretty sure he's wrestling Ali on main event in Purgatory for the Hulu audience. That's what Ricochet's up to. Let's see, Deloth. I like things like Tough Enough for Total Divas. For WWE, these treasure hunting shows are cool. Would you believe I still haven't watched a single A&E bio? I still haven't. I've been meaning to, but I've been a little bit more skeptical. I'm a Dark Side of the Ring guy. I like third parties documenting stories. Because WWE, and I used to collect the DVDs, Rise and Fall of ECW, Monday Night Wars, Viva La Raza. These documentaries are great, but being told by a first party, by the ones who own the footage, by the ones who dictate history, leaves a ton of important information out, changes the importance of certain things. I find that Self-Destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, and then what the hell else was the second one? Was just Warrior? They were two completely different documentaries by the same people that retconned each other because they don't want to document what happened. They want you to focus on their narrative of what happened. I love doing my Today in History things because I will talk about some of the things that they don't want you to remember. I will highlight some of the things that need to be corrected in how they dictate how their history went. Let's see. Biggest problem, AEW. Cornette booking. All these matches, you already know outcomes. Yeah. I mean, I'll give them credit for trying to get, like, the enhancement matches back out there. And I'll tell you this, Dowloth, it will be huge when you get that surprise roll-up win. When PJ Polaco or PJ Walker rolls up IRS, or the Kid beats Razor Ramon, it's going to have some significance. What AEW needs to do with me is they need to have more time limit draws again. Because that was a selling point. That was something that actually made some significance into the time limits, and it feels like they've just abandoned that. Alright, remember when I was talking about King of the Ring? This is why I don't go live more than once a month. This is all about King of the Ring. I want to see the show, like King of the Ring. My issue with King of the Ring as an adult is it is a lot more predictable than it was, because you can't have a babyface King of the Ring. It can't happen. The purpose of the entire King of the Ring tournament is to give you a heel who gets the regal authority complex and decides he is better than all you miserable peasants. Now, I would like to see another King of the Ring just so we can get it off of Corbin. And whether it means we get another heel taking Corbin's place, or we get a babyface who turns heel because he becomes the king, you know, I'd be more in favor just to give us something different, to give us a change. They gave Stone Cold a fluff piece, nothing about Deborah. Yeah, that was the thing. And remember, the Ultimate Warrior story, Dana was involved in the A&E one and denounced the Dark Side of the Ring one as being smut. The Dark Side of the Ring one involved Warrior's first wife. I can't remember, Jenny, I think it was. And it was a very different story. It actually covered more of his neuroses, his psychosis, so to speak. Now, with that said, they make it sound like the A&E is going to be all great and positive, and then Dark Side of the Ring is going to be all, you know, negative, cynical pessimism, but it's not always the case. There can be good things and feel-goods out of that. But, I mean, I would rather a third party document history. I don't, like, history is written by the winners is exactly how you have more world wars and, you know, third comings of these one per century pandemics. Let's see, you're upset they didn't even give Danny Jordan an entrance. She wrestled Julia Hart. I need to go back and watch that just because I do want to see how Julia Hart does. I was very critical of her a few weeks ago because she forgot the cameras were on, is probably the way to put it. I was very critical of that. And I was told to ease up on her. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying take her off TV and, you know, bury her for it. I'm saying somebody in the back show her what she did so she doesn't do it again next week. King of the Ring has been replaced by Money in the Bank briefcase. I don't think that's true. I don't think that needs to be that way, even if it was. Month of the year it did, even though for some reason this June is Hell in a Cell. Remind me to plug my hot sauce review. Because the Hell in a Cell hot sauce, that did not get any views at all. But, like, King of the Ring is supposed to be a good... The people like to tell me, because I've gotten in arguments with people, that the purpose of the King of the Ring is to build your next main eventer. No. That's what Money in the Bank is for. King of the Ring is supposed to build a storyline around people who aren't in your main event. That is exactly what King of the Ring needs to be. It needs to be, because SmackDown right now has Roman Reigns and has Apollo Crews, and I'm already getting tired of Apollo Crews. What other story have they got? I haven't even heard anything about Bianca lately. I think she's feuding with Bayley now, because there's only 3 women on that show. It's tough. It's tough. Raw has an entire hour more than SmackDown. And the most engaging thing, the most interesting thing was Eva Marie. Like, it's just... Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Now, I was going to do a Today in Wrestling History bit for a video, and I decided it wasn't really enough of a topic. But today, June 16th, 1998, we officially had the debut of Edge. Well, I guess not officially, because it was on tape, and it would air a week later. But Edge debuted against Los Boricuas member Jorge Estrada. I sound like I'm drunk. Now, you can find the match on YouTube. You can find the match on Peacock. You can find the match on the network. And the match didn't go according to plan. The nice way to put it, it was a shit show they had to call off. What had happened was, in the middle of his offense, Edge did a top rope. Was it a moonsault or was it a tope suicida? I think it was a moonsault. He did a moonsault to the floor, landed wrong. Basically, knee on head, which caused Jorge Estrada to break his neck. Match over, my friends. And it was so awkward. They didn't know what to do. The refs waved it off. You could visibly see Edge was pissed. Jorge was gone for almost a year. And then he just worked some regional kind of the B shows that they would send for syndication in other countries, and Jorge was done. That was basically the end of Estrada. There is a really good interview. I want to say it was Wrestle Talk. Edge sat and talked about that match. Go and check it out. I think it was an absolute riot. I don't have anything to contribute, which is why it's not its own video right now. Let's see. I'm at the point now where, because I've completed all my things I wanted to talk about, if you guys have questions in the chat, I'm more than happy to answer them. I'm just checking the breaking news stuff right now and see if there's anything of note. NXT ratings are in. Thunder Rosa is going to continue training for her MMA career. Oh, please put her in the boxing ring with Sexy Star. With Dulce. Because I can't remember. I think it's Dulce Garcia is her name that when she can't be Sexy Star. Which Dulce Garcia just makes me think of like a candy cigar or like a chocolate cigarette. It just doesn't quite have the same ring. Let's see. Darby Allin falling off skateboards prepared me for wrestling. Okay, neat. Not much in terms of news there. Let's catch up on that chat. Let's see. I'm just scrolling up because of I'm quite a bit behind on Dowloth here. Dark Side with the ex-wife, while A&E had Dana and family, daughters. It was cool to have them both. It would have been nice to see a middle ground, a compromise where we actually got, you know, the story from both ends. But the reality of it, and this is something you can choose if it's praise to Dana or if it's a slag on Dana, but one thing she definitely understands is the importance of marketing and keeping that brand going. Whereas some people would want to keep the memory of the wrestler alive, she seems more focused on keeping the brand alive. So she is going to specifically want to pick and choose what information gets out there. And it wouldn't surprise me if there were subjects where they had to go to Dana and get approval, like, can we talk about this? Can we talk about that? And she would go, no, I would rather we talk about the good stuff here. And I would rather we talk about this way. Let's see, at least when WWE does it, they allow you to use the footage while Dark has to redo. Yeah, Dark has to do a lot of reimaginings, dramatizations. They can use some footage. Fair Use does have some wiggle room on that. I think I use more WWE footage than Dark Side of the Ring does. Just want to make sure, because I see my stream is in the red. Is it still... I've lost a lot of frames. Am I still live, guys? Apparently I'm losing like 40 frames a second right now. I don't know why. My Bitcoin miner is off. Apparently my antivirus is on twice. I'll have to fix that. I don't know why that would ever be the case. Alright, let's keep going. Julia Hart has Penelope Ford on Friday. I'd just like to point out, AEW on, like, Dynamite on Friday right now is pissing me off. Okay? I'm not enjoying watching Dynamite that late on a Friday night. Especially the fans that are watching 2 hours of SmackDown. You think they want to go watch 2 hours of Dynamite after? 4 hours is too fucking much. It's not an easy watch. I think I remember seeing something, I think it was last week, Dynamite's viewership was down to like 400,000 because it's not their slot. It's not what they've been building up to. They need to get off of TNT sooner rather than later. Frankly, this moving to TBS in January, they should have said we're moving to TBS in September because they are killing their brand right now. People are tuning in on Wednesday night. They're not seeing NXT and they're not seeing Dynamite. And it won't be long before they tune in on Friday night to TNT and they're not going to find Dynamite there either. I don't know what Tony Khan is doing in terms of like buying ad time. The smartest thing that he could have done over the course of this month, maybe he has, I don't think he has because I haven't heard a thing about it, would be all those Fox affiliates that are airing SmackDown in the States, buy ad time on those spots to say, hey, after SmackDown, tune to this channel and you can watch Dynamite. That would have been genius. I don't think he did that. Let's see. There are times I feel like I'm watching XPW or CZW with the budget. I mean, a lot of times you are. A lot of times you are with the Dark Side of the Ring footage. You've seen a few Carmella matches when she beat Liv Morgan and then lost to Liv. I'm so tired of the 50-50 booking. I think that's actually something, because I know you were, you had talked a bit about it earlier, about these matches on AEW where you know going in who's obviously going to win. I still kind of prefer that to the 50-50 booking, where it doesn't matter who's going to win because next week they're going to get their win back. It makes no damn sense. See, Dowloth, I'd love to see Sexy Star take Thunder Rosa down. You've seen Thunder Rosa lose her MMA match. I've not seen Thunder Rosa in MMA yet. I have watched Duel Say Box. That sounds so pervy when I say that. I have a little bit of regret. In 2017, I did meet Sexy Star, and she was very timid. I chalked it up to her English wasn't very solid. She did not seem to want to be there when I talked to her, which is a damn shame. I was rooting for her, and then she tried to break Rosemary's arm. So, and like, I'm a big supporter of Rosemary. Rosemary is one of those ones that I've contacted, be like, hey, I'd love to talk about your career for a bit. And haven't heard back, so, you know, not big enough yet. So, be sure to share these, the channel here, because, you know, I imagine when I get to, you know, 30,000, 50,000, 100,000 subs, it'll be easier to convince somebody like Rosemary to come do an interview. Then, and Allie's another one I'd love to get. The Bunny? I'd love to get her, chat with her for a little bit. You can talk about Dustin Rhodes' bull rope drama on Twitter. I missed this because Dustin Rhodes blocked me like a decade ago. It's actually in my Terry Runnels interview. I talked about Dustin blocking me, and she said, "Oh, I'll talk to him and get you unblocked." It never happened. But yeah, I guess there was some issue about him losing a bull rope match, or no, he won a bull rope match against somebody younger. I guess. I don't know what the details were on that. I'll have to probably look that up. So my yeah, the thing is laggy. Am I still losing frames like crazy? I'm still losing a ton of frames. I don't know what's going on. I could probably stop the stream and it'll be like a half hour trying to catch up. I don't know. My internet's going to shit. Let me just check something. Because my miner is off, but maybe the service is running. No, the service is off. There should be no reason. Maybe it's with Restreamio. Let's see. I watch the NHL, so it's running into Dynamite often. Yeah, that's Turner getting the hockey deal was a mind blower. The thing is, obviously that's going to end because the season's going to end pretty soon. Wonder who you're rooting for. Obviously, like, I'm supposed to root for the Habs. I think this is Vegas's year, but obviously I'd love to see the Habs pull an upset. Jordan Eberle is playing for the Islanders, and I have some signed merchandise that'll go up in value if he wins the cup, but I don't see the Islanders doing it. Start sending Britt Baker to NXT shows. That's good. That's good. And Dan, yeah, I can't seem to fix this. My bitrate has dropped significantly. This might be normally I'd say a Twitch issue. This might be server side. I don't know what to do. I have lost 60,000 frames of this stream. $60,000 frames have dropped. I don't even know how far behind we are. Oh god, we're minutes behind. Minutes! Oh dear. Guys, I don't know what else to talk about. I'm kind of just waiting for it to catch up now. The only thing I could think of now is just to play off one of the vids. And just kind of let the stream kind of roll to an end. I would definitely recommend, because there was a new video that did not seem to get the attention or views that the others had done. I guess I would be recommending that you watch the ECW zombie one, but I'm going to play it right now. And after that one concludes, we're probably going to call an end to the stream for the day. But thank you all for tuning in. Fuck, this lag. I don't know what to do about this. Obviously, I need to talk to Telus, because shit's going wrong again. But, yeah, if you have any questions... Whoa! What's going on here? Somebody donated! Dan, my goodness! Dropping $20! You beautiful son of a bitch, thank you so much. You just bought my whiskey. You just bought me a bottle of Crown Royal tonight, and I appreciate you for it. Seems to be many minutes behind. The exchange between between Dustin Rhodes. Alright. But what we're going to do is we are going to watch the ECW zombie vid. If this thing doesn't clear up, then we're probably just going to call it a stream. But yeah, thank you very much once again. Be sure to subscribe. Show that love. Share the channel. We're closing in on 2,200 subscribers. And I'd love to get some more, top list goodies and more moments in history out there. So yeah, until then, next guys, we'll watch this thing, I guess.